Welcome to another Walter Football video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst. Before we get rolling, click the settings here, speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5. I think that makes these videos a lot better. Now, typical disclaimer, the mock is what I think NFL teams will do, not what they should do. My opinion on prospects does not matter. NFL teams don't care if I think a player is good or not. Sometimes I'll have scouts ask me my thoughts on a player. But the question I get more than that is, where are you hearing this guy's going to go? Where are you hearing this guy's grade is from other scouts? So that information is something NFL teams value. What they value about mock drafts, and they do read them, they look at them, especially in the final days leading up to the draft, is just to kind of see where guys are projected to go so they know who might be available at different picks, as far as who might get to their second round pick, etc., who might be there late in the first round, that kind of thing. They don't care what me or any media analyst thinks about a player. And for example, a few years ago during the draft, John Gruden on ESPN was there with Mel Kiper. The Chiefs took a player, and Mel Kiper made a comment and referred to his draft board, and John Gruden said, Mel, Andy Reid doesn't give a damn about your draft board. And John Gruden and Andy Reid go back a long ways to Mike Holmgren's staff with the Packers as young assistants. And it's true, and it's no real slight on Mel Kiper, because Mel Kiper deserves to be in the NFL Hall of Fame one day. He popularized the draft. He's a hero to me. And I really appreciate him, but they do read Kiper's mock draft. I guarantee you they do that and take that with seriousness, as they do with a lot of mock drafts. So at any rate, that is what matters to NFL teams, and that's what I focus on in my mock, trying to project what I think they're going to do rather than what I think they should do, because that doesn't matter. Anyways, on to the mock. Here we go. Jags first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, no-brainer, franchise quarterback, generational talent. The Jags just won the lottery, getting the first pick the year that Lawrence, a player like this, came out. Let's see. We'll have to see about Urban Meyer and Trent Baalke, if they can make the right moves to surround Lawrence with enough talent to win there. But they have a great young quarterback to build around. They're very fortunate, and Lawrence is the real deal. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Jaguars for a long, long time. Second overall pick, I have the Jets taking Zach Wilson, the quarterback from BYU. I'm not projecting a trade with the Texans sending Deshaun Watson to the Jets. Makes a lot of sense. If they're going to do a deal, makes sense for the Jets. If you're Joe Douglas, general manager there, and you're a year or two away from being on the hot seat, potentially getting fired, who would you rather have as your quarterback to save your job? Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, or Zach Wilson? It's Deshaun Watson, no-brainer of a decision there. So it makes sense for the Jets to really go for it in that regard. However, I'm not projecting trades in the mock, so with that being the case, the Jets taking Zach Wilson, I could see Robert Saleh and that staff deciding, we don't want to fix the mistakes that Adam Gase made with Sam Darnold. Let's start fresh, get another cheap rookie contract, deal Sam Darnold, and we'll try and build around this guy. So that's what I have the Jets doing at 2. Third overall pick, similar kind of situation. The Dolphins should be in Deshaun Watson, pursue that deal. If it doesn't work out for them, then I think they got to build around Tua Tagovailoa. He could use more receiver help. The receivers from Miami played pretty well in the early and middle part of the year, but the unit as a group kind of faded late in the year, with the exception of Devontae Parker, who's a really good player. But I think they could use another stud for Tua across from Parker, really make his job a lot easier. Chase has just big play potential anytime he touches the ball. Obviously, he just dominated college football in 2019, and the year off kind of lets people forget how good he really was. But he's a dynamic player, bigger than Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, so I have him going ahead of them. Fourth overall pick, I have the Falcons taking Justin Fields, a quarterback from Ohio State. Atlanta is in rebuilding mode. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some debate inside that building about some people kind of bristling at ownership, specifically at trading Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and doing a rebuilding project just a few years after losing the Super Bowl in a game they should have won. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but it'll be up to the new regime there to make the decision. And picking it for, if you have a potential franchise quarterback available to them, it's hard to pass on that. So I have the Falcons taking Fields. 5th overall, I have the Bengals taking Penei Sewell, left tackle from Oregon. Give Joe Burrow that franchise left tackle to protect him for many years to come. You can move Jonah Williams inside to guard or center or right tackle, and now you just upgraded your offensive line at 2 different spots with that one pick. So this pick makes a lot of sense for Cincinnati if he gets there. 6th overall, I have the Eagles taking Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida. I'm not sure if you guys saw recently, but I had an article on Pitts about how some teams think he can play wide receiver, think he could be a poor man's Calvin Johnson. Others think he'll be a Travis Kelce or Tony Gonzalez type tight end in the NFL. Either way, Pitts is just a freak athlete and such a dynamic mismatch weapon. I know scouts who have all the top receivers and Pitts in their territory, and they say among that group, Pitts is the most deadly. He's the most dangerous mismatch weapon of that group. He's going to be such an asset in the red zone. And I think with the Eagles potentially moving on from Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, solid tight end, but not necessarily something that you would pass on Pitts for when you can have a Kelce or Tony Gonzalez guy there for a long time. And he's a great kid, loves football, works really hard, good teammate. Teams rave about his intangibles. So with him and Jalen Reagor, now you're giving them some real big play and deadly weapons in that passing attack. I think Pitts would make sense for Philadelphia. 7th overall, I have the Lions taking Trey Lance, quarterback from North Dakota State. Obviously, Detroit's going to be trading Matthew Stafford. They're going to need a quarterback of the future. Be important for the Lions not to force it. If they don't like any of the quarterback options, you might have to wait till next year. But at any rate, if they do like the quarterbacks, among the top 4, between Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Lance, obviously Lawrence no shot, but the other 3, if you like one of them and they get to your pick at 7, you got to do it and build around that guy. And I think they made a really smart hire in Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator. He just did a fantastic job of working with Justin Herbert last season as a rookie quarterback, especially in this pandemic year with limited time with these guys and all the Zoom meetings and no mandatory mini camp and OTAs, and yet Herbert came and balled out, had a phenomenal rookie year. So Lynn brings that experience to the Lions coaching staff, which could be pure gold for developing this next quarterback, because I anticipate this season, off season, and everything's going to be, a bit helter-skelter. It won't be back to normal yet. So at any rate, I think that was a great hire by the Lions and could help them with developing their new quarterback. 8th overall, I have the Panthers taking Micah Parsons, linebacker from Penn State. Gives them a replacement for Luke Kuechly. They need a linebacker upgrade next to Shaq Thompson's. Parsons would be a plug-and-play improvement for them. 9th overall, I have the Broncos taking Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback from Alabama. Gives Denver a number 1 outside corner. They really haven't had that since moving on from Aqib Talib. So this pick makes a lot of sense for the Broncos. 10th, I have the Cowboys taking Jalen Phillips, defensive end from Miami. Gives them a nice bookend defensive end to go with DeMarcus Lawrence. The other guys, Aldon Smith, Randy Gregory, you can't rely on them with their off-the-field issues, but they couldn't be cheap rotational players and help bring along Phillips well, and you have 4 guys to keep them fresh and get after the quarterback. So really for Dallas, I think you're looking at the best defensive player available at 10. 11th overall, I have the Giants taking Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. This would be a huge upgrade for the Giants receiving corps. Smith is just a killer on the football field, so deadly, such an awesome player. Amazing speed, yards after the catch, great hands, superb route running, just a thin-framed guy. If he was 20 pounds heavier, he would be in the top 5, but with that being the case, I know some teams have a little trepidation about possibly taking him in the top 10, taking a wide receiver that weighs in the 170s that high. So I think you could see Smith go just outside the top 10 because of that, but it would be a nice pick for the Giants and really improve their weapons for Daniel Jones coming up in a critical year for that team. 12th overall of the 49ers taking Caleb Farley, cornerback from Virginia Tech, sat out last season, but he has a great skill set. Big, fast, athletic, plays the ball really well, had a really good season in 2019. Has some medical concerns, though. Already tore an ACL, had a back injury in 2019 as well. So if he slides in the draft, it'll probably be because of that medical concern. 13th overall, I have the Chargers taking Elijah Vera Tucker, the left tackle / guard from USC. The Chargers need a lot of offensive line help. The interior is going into free agency. They need a long-term left tackle for Justin Herbert. Vera Tucker is a polished player, really good athlete, really good football player, well-rounded. So he makes a lot of sense for them where they could play him at guard or left tackle depending on what they do in free agency. He has that versatility to just improve that line in front of Justin Herbert. 14th overall, I have the Vikings taking Gregory Rousseau, the defensive end from Miami. Minnesota could use more young talent on that defensive line. You have Rousseau, Donnell Hunter, DJ Wonnum. Now you have a nice trio of edge rushers to rotate, keep fresh, and get after the quarterback for 4 quarters. 15th overall, I have the Patriots taking Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver from Alabama. Give them that big play threat that their offense so badly needs. He could be a Tyreek Hill type weapon in that for that team, and which would be such a huge upgrade for New England. So definitely, I think Waddle would be a nice value for the Patriots at 15th overall. 16th, I have the Cardinals taking Kwity Paye, the edge rusher from Michigan. Chandler Jones is aging. He's also nearing the end of his contract, so you could take Paye regardless of, Jones. Even if Jones comes back, they could use another edge rusher to go across from, help improve that defense, and in the long term, he could be that number 1 edge rusher for Arizona. 17th overall, I have the Raiders taking Davion Nixon, the defensive tackle from Iowa. Bit of a reach here, but that's been the story with Mike Mayock. Aside from Josh Jacobs, he's reached on all of his first-round picks. And Nixon gives them something they badly need with an interior pass rusher. He's got a lot of upside, good skill set, kind of reminds me of K'Wan Short, and that would be an upgrade for the Raiders, and really a nice fit in Gus Bradley's scheme as the 3 technique there. 18th overall, I have the Dolphins taking Zaven Collins, the linebacker from Tulsa. Great fit in Brian Flores' defense. Collins can play inside linebacker, outside linebacker. He can rush off the edge, drop into coverage. So much he does to help a defense. Can use him in such a variety of ways. I think he makes a ton of sense for Miami. 19th overall, I have the Redskins taking Terrace Marshall, wide receiver from LSU. Washington has got to get better weapons for the next quarterback, or if it's Alex Smith coming back, they just have to get more explosive on offense and have more receiver talent to move the chains. And Marshall gives them a receiver with some size. He has quickness as well. Could be a really nice combo with Terry McLaurin. 20th overall, I have the Bears taking Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman from Northwestern. Slater's an interesting player. I know some teams that graded him in the 2nd round, and those teams think he's going to be a guard or center in the NFL, which is why they have him there. Then there are other projections of him going in the top 10, and that would be if the belief is he could stay at left tackle. But at 6'3", 305, that is definitely undersized to be a left or right tackle in the NFL. So he's going to be an interesting player to keep an eye on through the process. But the Bears definitely need offensive line help. Slater could come in, be the real replacement for Kyle Long, or you could move him around and just improve that line, and they definitely have got to do that. It'll help whoever is their quarterback next season. 21st overall, I have the Colts taking Sam Cosmi, left tackle from Texas. Obviously, the Colts have to get a replacement for Anthony Costanzo, their left tackle who retired. Cosmi could come in and be day one starter potential, really good athlete, moves well on the edge, needs to get stronger, but has good upside for them to develop that. He could add strength in a pro strength and conditioning program, but definitely has left tackle feet and quickness and athleticism. So it makes sense for the Colts, if they don't get a quarterback, to fill that big void at left tackle. I think edge rusher might make sense as well for them, but left tackle is more of a pressing issue given Costanzo's retirement. 22nd overall, I have the Titans taking Carlos Basham, the defensive end from Wake Forest. Tennessee's got to improve their pass rush. Obviously, Clowney's hitting free agency and Vic Beasley didn't work out. Basham is versatile. You can line him up at end. He can move inside and rush in the sub package over the guard. He's a really nice football player, tough run defender as well. I think he would be a good fit for Mike Vrabel. 23rd overall, I have the Jets taking Tyson Campbell, the cornerback from Georgia. They need more cornerback help. Campbell could come in and be a starter for them. Had a really nice 2020 season of tape. Became a lot more consistent. Really, the only game that had some ugly moments for him was against Kyle Pitts in Florida, but otherwise he had a really good season, really nice player. Would definitely help the Jets by giving them an outside starter quickly in his NFL career. 24th overall, I have the Steelers taking Travis Etienne, the running back from Clemson. Would really bring some speed and explosiveness to the Pittsburgh rushing attack. Also would be such a nice weapon in the passing game on checkdowns. Really dangerous to take that check down in the flat, turn it into a first down. And the Steelers could, James Conner's hitting free agency, they could really use more of a steady presence in the backfield. 25th overall, I have the Jaguars taking Christian Darrisaw, left tackle from Virginia Tech. Really good athlete, quick, good feet, able to cut off speed rushers. Not that physical, does not play with a lot of urgency. You don't see him blocking through the whistle, doesn't have a mean streak or anything like that. But he'll be fine in a passing-driven offense, and obviously with Trevor Lawrence, that's what the Jags are going to be running. So Cam Robinson is hitting free agency. Even if you brought him back, you could take more offensive line help like Darrisaw, move Jawan Taylor inside to guard. A.J. Cann could be gone before long. And now you have Taylor at guard and Darrisaw and Cam Robinson as your tackles. And if Cam Robinson leaves in free agency, now that's a huge need to get a starting left tackle. Darrisaw could fill that void. So looking at some of those offensive line values could make a lot of sense for the Jags at pick 25 to really help protect their young franchise quarterback. 26th overall, I have the Browns taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker from Notre Dame. Cleveland could use some more young talent at linebacker. Owusu-Koramoah would be a really nice asset in that division for defending Lamar Jackson and the Ravens rushing attack. Obviously, Pittsburgh's probably going to look to improve their ground game this offseason. And then with Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, another mobile quarterback, and Joe Mixon, a dangerous dual threat running back receiver in their backfield. Owusu-Koramoah would really help them to defend those teams within their division. So I think this pick makes sense for the Browns. 27th overall, I have the Ravens taking Rashad Weaver, edge rusher from Pitt. Had a really nice 2020 season, was back to his pre-injury form, missed 2019, was hurt, but played really well in 2018. And the Ravens have their top four outside linebacker edge rushers hitting free agency. It's hard to see them being able to afford Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue. Wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets re-signed and then they look to use a first-round pick or second-round pick to get another rusher to go across from them. Weaver would be a nice value for them late in the first round, has some versatility with where you can line them up, would be a good scheme fit there in Baltimore. 28th overall, I have the Saints taking Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama. Barmore is a dynamite interior pass rusher, has to get better as a run defender, showed some improvement late in the season, but late in the first round to get an interior rusher with a lot of upside, I think that could be a good value for the Saints. Sheldon Rankins could leave the team before long, and this gives you an interior rusher to pair next to Cam Jordan. Even if Rankins is brought back, wouldn't hurt to have Barmore to help them close out games, rotate them, and just add more pass rush talent to the inside of that defensive line. 29th overall, I have the Packers taking Rodarius Williams, cornerback from Oklahoma State. Really good cover corner, runs the route, prevents separation, had an excellent 2020 season. Obviously, the Packers could use more help at corner. Kevin King's going to be gone, so they need another starting corner. Williams, with a lot of experience coming from Oklahoma State, could be an immediate starter and a real upgrade there for Green Bay. 30th overall, I have the Bills taking Liam Eichenberg, left tackle from Notre Dame. Give them a good edge protector, but he's versatile enough where you could move Eichenberg inside to guard or right tackle, improve that protection for Josh Allen, help them run the ball more consistently. 31st overall, Tampa Bay, I have them taking Dayo Odeyingbo, the defensive end from Vanderbilt. I think he'd be a really nice fit in the defense there for Todd Bowles because he's versatile. You can line him up at different spots. But with Shaq Barrett coming up at the end of his contract, Jason Pierre-Paul aging, even if Barrett comes back, he's going to even if Barrett comes back, you could use another edge rusher to rotate with those guys, especially with the age of Pierre-Paul. So definitely, I think this pick or defensive tackle help could make sense for Tampa Bay. Ndamukong Suh could leave in free agency. Similar kind of thing. Even if he's brought back, you could use some youth to rotate with him and Vita Vea. But the Bucs are going to be fascinating. They have a lot of big free agents coming up here. Levante David, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Sue, Barrett. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating offseason in Tampa Bay. But first things first, Super Bowl coming up here. 32nd overall, I have the Chiefs taking Alex Leatherwood, the left tackle from Alabama. Leatherwood's played guard. You could play him at right tackle. You could move him inside. And with the Chiefs there, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to improve the talent on the offensive line. Obviously, they have a ton of money invested in Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a first-round pick. So for the Chiefs, let's help those guys by improve that offensive line so they get more return on investment in those contracts. They could also look defense here, but really late in the first round, early in the second, you're going to find some really good offensive line values. So I think it would make sense for the Chiefs to add a young core guy there, give them a cheap, good offensive lineman for 5 years to come here. Now, let's get into the three teams that don't have first-round picks. I don't like to exclude them. So let's talk Seahawks in the second round. I have them taking Pat Freiermuth, tight end from Penn State. Greg Olson's retiring. I think he's going to be awesome in the media, by the way. But they're going to need a replacement for him. I think they could use a little more weaponry in that offense, help Russell Wilson, try and hurt defenses when they send double coverage to DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. So let's take a tight end and run them down the seam, really attack those safeties and make their lives difficult. I think that would help Russell Wilson, and it could help their ground game as well. Rams up next. I have them taking Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. I think obviously Andrew Whitworth can't play forever. The Rams and Les Snead and Brad Holmes, I think, made a really smart pick with Cam Akers last year in the second round. When they were without a first-round pick, they got a really good player in the second round that's a long-term starter. I think that could be similar with the pick like Jenkins here, or one of the offensive tackles that slides. You could potentially get a replacement for Andrew Whitworth, or maybe the guy is just an improvement at guard or right tackle here. But looking at the offensive line, I think the Rams could have some nice values there, and whoever's going to be their starting quarterback next year wouldn't hurt to help him with more talent up front. Now, lastly, we have the Texans in the third round. I have them taking Jerome Johnson, the defensive tackle from Indiana. If you want to watch a fun tape of an interior defensive lineman, check out Jerome Johnson against Ohio State this past year. Really played his tail off, had a big presence in helping Indiana almost upset Ohio State in that game, was all over Justin Fields. And I think that obviously the Texans need more youth on that defensive line. Losing DJ Reader in free agency hurt. J.J. Watt's aging, nearing the end of the contract as well. They need more youth and building blocks on that defensive front seven. Jerome Johnson would give them that. I think he has some flexibility for a 3-4 or 4-3. So I think he could be a nice value for the Texans there in the third round. So that's this week's mock draft, guys. I will be back with you again soon next week. Of course, I'll have draft video going up Wednesday. Another mock coming up before long after that, of course. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. Please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. I'd really appreciate it. Check the links below so you can read the rest of round 2 and round 3 of the mock. All the picks are there. A lot of interesting ones on day 2. A lot of good values for teams in the second round. So I suggest you check that out. Get familiar with some of these players as well. So anyways, once again, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome. I appreciate you. You take care. Be safe. Be healthy. And I'll be back with you soon.